This is a question posed in the chat room here. We've heard a lot about how the moon had been created. That a fairly large planet, about the size of Mars, crashed into the Earth millions of years ago, and particles from that explosion fused together, and that's how the moon was created. But what do we really know about the moon? I mean, how long has it been there, and how was it really created?
Yeah, I think that what you just relayed was not true. In fact, the ancient Sumerians, who were speaking from information from the Anunnaki, who probably got their information from aliens too, because they obviously give the call and have their alien counseling going on, stated, and the Zetas confirmed this, that Earth was out in the asteroid belt. The reason we have all that junk up there is prior, to the current time when Planet X makes its passage between the, within the orbit of Venus, very close to the sun. It made its passage out in the asteroid belt. And that's because the sun was larger and more massive in those days, and as it has burned out, it is reducing in mass. So it has less of a gravity pull or push, or less of a repulsion push away, too. So it doesn't hold Planet X at the arm's length that it did in those days. Planet X went through the asteroid belt, what is now the asteroid belt, and it has a lot of moons traveling along behind it, as it does today, an entourage of at least 24 moons. And these twirl around and sling back and forth and bashed these little life-bearing planets that were in the asteroid belt, of which there was approximately 24 or so, mostly water planets, and bashed them into pieces, and where they had lava on the inside, molten lava, they spewed out, and that formed these irregular asteroid rocks. And the little comets that we see, dirty snowballs come zinging around, that's where the water went, slung this way and that way, and it's not anything from something called the Oort cloud, which doesn't even exist per the Zetas. So Earth was one of those planets, and it got wanged in the place where the Pacific now lies, and it got slung out of its orbit and came in a smaller shape to land where it is today, riding Earth's orbit. And gradually that big hole in the Pacific has been filling, because every time there's a passage, and it's jerked around by the passing Planet X, the Atlantic widens and the Pacific shortens, and this will be the process during the forthcoming pole shift too. So the moon is not even from our Earth. It is another hunk of rock that was probably slinging around during that time and just arrived and got captured by the Earth's gravitational pull. I think, my understanding is that humans know that the composition of rock on the moon is not the same as that on Earth. And so whatever that theory about it came from the Pacific has been disproven even by our human scientists.
Caller, do you have a question for Nancy later? Hello, caller? I got somebody on the line here, but I guess he must have left, Nancy.
Yeah.
Now, we're hearing about these mysterious booming sounds in many parts of the U.S., especially along the eastern and western seaboards. People have referred to them as loud, sonic boom-like noises that have shook buildings and rattled windows. Local authorities, the military and seismologists, haven't given any reasonable explanation for these occurrences. They've labeled them as unexplained anomalies that may be related to tectonic plate activity or booms created by meteors or pieces of asteroid entering our atmosphere. Nancy, what's your thoughts about these strange sounds, and where are they originating from?
Yeah, and the Zetas have been asked about that for a long time because they've been going on at almost an increasing rate. There's several different explanations. One is air clapping. Thunder claps that we hear are because lightning has sliced through the air and created a vacuum between two air masses on either side, which come together to fill the vacuum and clap. And so therefore, anytime you have unequal air pressure to the extent that air masses will rush toward each other, you'll have that clap. What would cause that? adjusting Earth as the Earth. As the Zeta said, we are having more problems with our infrastructure from what they call the stretch zone, pulling apart of rock, where rock drops or shifts, and this can happen undersea as well as on land. We're having more of those problems than we are from where we have earthquakes, compression, where there's a big jolt. So booms normally happen over water because the water can drop. If the Earth adjusts underneath the water level drops, and then this creates that vacuum where the air can clap. This can also happen over land. And the kind of shaking and rattling that a house might experience, which the USGS then says, well, there wasn't an earthquake, didn't happen. This also, can create the booms, and does. There'll be earthquake swarm of a magnitude 2 or 3 at Dallas, and meanwhile there's boom, boom, boom going on, and no sonic booms, no explosions in a mine or anything like that. And it's because of this clapping air due to adjusting level of the Earth. The Earth might drop or rise.
We're hearing about a lot of very strange weather occurring. It's been happening for quite some time, and it seems to get worse as every year progresses. Now, in the northern sectors in New England and parts of the Midwest, they're having what they're calling a year without a summer. Mm-hmm. And down here in Louisiana and in Texas, we've had extremely dry conditions. What in Texas they refer to as a 100-year drought. And also, in recent weeks, it seems as though the seasons seem to be a little bit out of whack, because normally this time of the year we should have temperatures dropping into the mid-70s in the evening, but in the last couple of weeks they've been dropping down into the 60s, which is extremely unusual for this time of the year. So a lot of people are kind of wondering what's going on with the seasons. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The Zetas predicted this last January, and it's another prediction that has come true, that we would have in the northern hemisphere cooler weather all the way until we have the pole shift, and it is because the magnetic north pole of Planet X is pointing toward us. We will have increased debris blowing out from the tail, which blows out also from the North Pole, debris and fireballs, and interference with our satellites and these kind of electromagnetic disturbances at Air France 447 and the dam in Russia, a transformer, increasing problems with our electronics. Another aspect of this is our North Pole will be shoved away, and kept away more than allowed to be pointing toward the sun. So they said cooler summers, cooler winters in the northern hemisphere until we have the pole shift, and that has come true.